Nigel Farage is said to be in advanced negotiations to join the I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here team. Is it true or is it false?
Well, I mean, must have been coming for years. I know he said that he's had phone calls for, every year since 2016 to do the show, and I'd love to know how much money they're offering him to do it, because we all know they throw money at people to do this.
I'd love it if he went in, if he goes to the jungle, walks up to one of them and goes, "Who are you?
Yeah.
I've never heard of you. You look like a low-grade bank clerk."
No.
Yeah, my understanding is that the money hasn't been right, but that it is right now.
Now, yeah, because he's
Do you know what? I've actually spoken to Nigel Farage before.
Is that the whole story?
I think we've all done that.
And he actually said he wants to do it, but he's really scared of the cockroaches. And I said, don't worry, Matt's already left the show.
I have to say, I've always had a certain fondness for I'm a Celebrity, because cut off from civilization, no personal hygiene, being forced to eat tarantula feces reminds me of boarding school. Happy days.
Actually, Matt Hancock did all right on the show. He did. Everyone kept voting him to stay in and do the challenges.
Well,
and he kept winning them.
Well, actually, Lizzie, you're the sort of celebrity expert, if you like, on the panel. So what will happen with all of these things? Because reality TV is still television. There's still editing to be done. Do you think that they will bring Nigel in to make him look different to what people expect, or to really trash him?
Well, I think Nigel will go in, and what happened to Matt Hancock a bit, people will vote for Nigel to do all those awful eating the bugs and all the nasty stuff. And Nigel is so brave and funny. I think he's going to take everyone by surprise and win everything, and he will end up being King of the Jungle.
Just to play devil's advocate, though, I mean, this guy has complained about celebrities going on this, politicians going on this show for quite a number of years now.
But he's not a politician.
Well, I mean, he's not.
To be fair to Nigel Farage, he complained about members of Parliament.
That's
going on.
That's
It wasn't just politicians.
Well, I read in his pre-statement about all of this that he was doing it for the kids. Apparently, because there's about 10 million kids watch this show, apparently, according to the polling data, and he wants to kind of show right-wing politics to them and all the rest of it. I was like, that's an interesting way of arguing. I'd like the money, please.
Yeah, but get rid of the woke nonsense. But I really think Nigel could win it.
Yeah,
but I'm just upset he's not going to the Tory party, because I think that's their only hope of winning the election.
Lizzie, have you ever been asked to do it?
I was asked once.
Actually, she'd just say yes. We all
No, but I heard my ex-husband was going in at the same time, and I thought, oh no, I can't bear rats.
I'll tell you, the only celebrity thing that I've ever been involved with was my flatmate was involved in the Oxford Union, and they'd invited David Hasselhoff to speak. So I said,
SpongeBob.
So I said, in the morning, why doesn't he come for a tour of the House of Commons? So I gave David Hasselhoff a tour. Right, he actually said, I'll come along. It was absolutely brilliant, but the best bit of it was, as he walked out, he saw David Cameron and started chatting to him. And a load of journalists walked up and said to me, what's David Hasselhoff doing here? And I said, honestly, he's researching for his role as Ronald Reagan in the forthcoming Iron Lady film. And the New Statesman ran it.
That's brilliant. But can I just say, though, it wouldn't be a surprise at all if Nigel won I'm a Celebrity. He is the winner. I mean,
but of course, I'm a Celebrity usually indicates a downward trajectory in one's political profile with Matt Hancock. But on the other hand, Nadine Dorries, 10 years later, she ended up in the cabinet.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
It's amazing, actually, the way that this is a way of engaging with younger people, because the fact is, politics is incredibly distant now from the public. I mean, you work trying to get people to connect more with the public. These reality shows do achieve that, don't they?
I try to make politicians for a few minutes at a time turn into human beings. That is quite difficult, and there will only be more and more reality shows, undoubtedly. We haven't got to peak reality yet. And so I think there will be a time when that will be seen as the best way of coming across the public.
I always thought what you should do in the House of Commons is, after every debate, vote off the weakest link. and then just be left with an autocratic dictator.
But you could do a show for lookalikes. I was thinking Mick Lynch. No?
I was going for Jason Statham.
I've got to explain this to the viewers and the listeners, right? Because what what happened was when you sat down, Lizzie said to you, "Oh, are you on the left or the right?" And you said, "Do I look like a lefty?" And she said, "Yes, you look like Mick Lynch." Which I thought was amazing.
I only saw the back of your head, honestly.
She saw the back of his head and thought his face had disappeared. Which politicians have you worked for?
Well, if I came on Talk TV and started talking about my clients, I probably wouldn't end up with any clients. And probably no testicles either. So
it wasn't your clients I was bothered about, it was the politics. Oh, I see what you mean.
I've worked with Rishi Sunak and others.
But, I mean, is it...
Give him some advice.
Yeah, what he said is don't say, "Hello, Rep fans." Anything beyond that, you're pretty much good to go. Anyway, Pete, people from the 80s will get that reference.
Yeah.
The younger lot, not so much.
No.
But OK, Pete, is Nigel Farage in advanced negotiations to be on I'm a Celebrity? Get me out of here. Is
Yes,
it true?
he is. It's true.
It's absolutely true! This is one that Lizzie Cundy is not going to like at all. But the Welsh Government has redefined a woman to include anyone who self-identifies as a female. So anyone who says, "I am a woman," becomes, oh, I shouldn't have said that, becomes a woman automatically.
This is terrible. I didn't know this, and I've got a feeling it's true. I mean, I really do feel there's a war on women. And at the end of the day, you know, whatever, you know, if you are a man, you want to be a woman, I'm sorry, you know, in 300 years, when they dig your bones up, you're still going to be a man. And I'm sorry to say that's the truth of
actually,
it.
Andre, I think it's even more sinister than Lizzie has described, because in this specific piece of legislation that I think I've heard about, they, not only when you're running for the Senedd, you can self-declare if you're a man, you could actually declare that you're a woman.
Yeah.
But the really insidious thing is that no returning officer can question whether you're a man or a woman. And it's that total acceptance of it, which I find very frightening indeed.
Double think.
Yes,
here's a bit I don't understand. We always talk about diversity and whatever. What stops me, and I'm saying this partly as a joke, but partly to be serious, why can't I just say I'm a female Rastafarian? I mean, if it is all self-defining, then what difference does it make?
Well, the irony is, of course, obviously they're going for some form of diversity, but it's women that they are discriminating against.
It is.
Supposedly they're trying to promote the number of women in the Senedd, but this will have the opposite effect.
Lois, I want to ask you this, because I feel personally, first of all, I wasn't interested in feminism or any of that sort of thing until fairly recently, but I feel like women have got equal rights for about 10 minutes and then immediately they start getting eroded. I mean, I just wonder whether your daughter, who I think is a young teenager at the moment, is going to end up with fewer rights and opportunities than you had.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I've never considered myself a feminist at all. If there is a patriarchy, it's served me so extraordinarily well since the age of about 12 years old.
We're not making any jokes.
I've got no problem with it at all. But I've got a slightly different view to Lizzie, I think, on this, because I think that when men who decide they want to be women go through the massive, long process where they have to live as a woman for a year, they have to have multiple psychiatric assessments, and then they have an operation at the end of, I think it's a 2 or 3 year period. Yes. I believe, and they lose their equipment.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't actually have a problem with that particular person being in a female changing room, but very much have a problem with some bloke or trucker going into but Lola has less rights.
But I couldn't hang on a second. But I couldn't believe this. I think it was Penn State University, Pennsylvania, where Leah Thomas, who there was this big debate about Leah Thomas. Is she a man or a woman, or is he a man or a woman? What I hadn't realised was that because of the shape of women, they have to shimmy into these swimming outfits, and they're Leah Thomas's, who's had no surgery at all. I mean, it's just offensive, isn't
and
it?
how can look? I was married to a footballer. How can I compete against my ex-husband? Playing football.
Well, you're a better presenter.
But you know what? If I say anything about this, I feel silenced and intimidated. I can't speak out about this at all. Yeah. Look at J.K. Rowling and the abuse I get.
Now, Pete, obviously, you've been transitioning for some years.
Years. Absolute years. Told you, nothing but abuse on this show.
All you have to do is shave him and stick a wig on. Hey, listen, can I tell you what?
That's only on a weekend, on it.
Shave that beard before he came on. You drove back.
Can I tell you what? You'd still pull in Wigan as a woman. But anyway, Pete, on a serious note, this is something that could corrupt the way that we're attempting to bring more women into politics. Because I do think that things like family-friendly hours at the House of Commons and things like that have been helpful. But this idea of people self-defining as women, it just ruins the whole thing, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%. So the one thing you have to notice, the big red flag for this should have been, it's called the...
Sorry, red flag.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm
You should have worn it,
I'm still
Peter.
bitter about it. I'm still bitter about it. But no, the big red flag on this one is the bill is called the Gender Quota Bill. Anything with the word quota in it should send up a big red flag that this has nothing to do with equality and it's to do with box ticking. This is to get a 50-50 Senate, which I think is an absolute moron idea.
So just to be clear, Pete, what you are suggesting, and I'm not saying you're wrong, you are suggesting that they are committing to 50-50 men and women split in the Welsh Parliament, and the way they're going to do it is by allowing men to say they're women. I mean, what sort of a country? Well, it's just madness.
Well, I have to admit, the Mark Drakeford is the First Minister there, or whatever his title is, communist leader. You know, he's been obsessed with this self-ID thing, probably before Nicola Sturgeon blew up her own career over it. And he's been cruising towards this. And I read an article about this the other day saying that this is basically, and don't make the joke, self-ID through the back door. Now, I said don't make the joke. But this is really important because
Hello? Yes, I'm sorry, Pete, it's legal. We didn't make the joke. We didn't make the joke. Yeah, well, saying don't make the joke. I get it. All right, no problem.
Well, it turns out that Pete is the master of the single.
No. But no, because this stuff is really serious because basically I think the idea is that they will never be able to get this self-ID thing through the public. They'll never get it voted on.
No.
So what they're going to do is they're going to do it through the back door. They're going to do it through little bits of legislation like this, and then it'll just become natural that when it does become a public vote, you say, well, we've already got it. And that's how they're going to do it.
But Pete, so just to stick with this for a second, but that's what I found with all this banking crisis and the Nigel Farage thing, where nobody seemed to be able to tell me who had ever decided to do any of this stuff. And so it sort of goes round and round in circles.
Oh, yeah. It's one of them. If everybody's got a little bit of responsibility for it, then no one will take actual responsibility for it. And that's how this stuff works.
It is actually medically dangerous.
Yeah.
Women and men are different. So if you give a man beetroot, it lowers their blood pressure. You know, men and women are different. And medically,
Lizzie,
it's
why
very dangerous.
No, Lizzie, you've come on this show multiple times. Why do you always mention beetroot?
I used to always feed it to my ex-husband who played football, and you had certain foods that would help men and not good for women.
And cooked tomatoes, good to avoid prostate cancer.
Thanks for that.
I didn't realise we were on a medical show.
Make a note of that. Thank you.
Oh, is that the phone ringing? Yes, it's the Beetroot Marketing Board for Lizzie Cundy.
Oh, extra lot coming. Thank you very much.
Let me tell you, I phoned Lizzie Cundy the other day and her voicemail said the following: hello, if this is paid work, the answer's yes. So, congratulations, Lizzie. You are now Miss Beetroot 2023.
Well, she's a very clever girl, that's why.
That's why.
Yeah.
Well, the answer to this question, sadly, is yes.
And I love the fact that she took over the presenting. It's absolutely true.
That was The Woke That Was. Continues after the break.
Want to get to grips with the stories that really matter?
To cut through the spin and the BS.
Want unvarnished and fiery debate?
Then join us for Crosstalk.
1 o'clock every weekday.
For the news that matters, for the opinions that matter, for the stories that matter. Find me, Vanessa Feltz, every weekday at 4 p.m, only on Talk, on TV, on radio, online, and on your smart speaker.
Welcome back to That Was The Woke That Was.
A train has accidentally taken EU politicians to Disneyland as a result of a signalling error. Is it true or is it false?
Well, you have to accept that in the founding charter of the European Union, there was a irreversible pledge to waste as much money as possible for as long as possible in every possible set of circumstances. They actually spend, I think, £106 million a year on the transport on that train from Strasbourg to Brussels and back again which seems incredible just to increase the choice of restaurants. And I think that probably the biggest surprise was that they could tell the difference between Strasbourg and Disneyland.
I'll tell you what I found really funny about it. Obviously, that's the treaty. People think the treaty says that the European Parliament has to meet in both Brussels and Strasbourg. But I remember Dan Hannan quite rightly pointed out it doesn't say that. It says that the European Parliament must meet for a minimum of 8 weeks per year in Strasbourg. So what he said was, I think the solution to this is to move it out of Brussels in Strasbourg.
I wouldn't like that.
The horror on the face of the EU
Horrible. There's nothing to eat in Strasbourg at all.
But they're always in cuckoo land anyway.
But,
Mickey Mouse.
But yeah, I mean, but let's actually look at what's happening in the EU right now.
No, let's not. In fact, actually, Pete, let's not. Let's ask you, is it true or false? No, Pete, you can go on.
I was just going to say, because one thing that's not really been much in the news lately is the fact they're going through another period of enlargement. You know, they want to have, I think, Ukraine...
Through the back door.
Oh, my God, it's full of innuendos today. But no, because they want to bring Ukraine in. And I was reading this report that the amount of money that the EU would have to send to Ukraine is 186 billion euro.
No way.
And I'm just like, Germany's now, as a report of, I think it was last week, that their economy has shrunk by a third. And they're in a technical recession. So I think there's actually going to be a big backlash to them actually expanding the European Union.
Pete,
in the coming weeks.
Pete, it was a question about Disneyland. How have you managed to get it onto Ukraine? Bad Pete, bad Pete, bad Pete.
Of all people.
No, shut up now. We've had enough. We've had enough, right? Keep it light. It's a meet and greet. Right. OK, so to Graham. Has a train accidentally taken a load of EU politicians to Disneyland due to a signalling error? Is it true or is it false?
I'm pretty sure that it's true.
It's absolutely true! Sticking with the rail theme. Lois.
Oh, I love trains, as you know.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. I know you do. You've been on the gravy train at TalkTV for years.
No, I do get public transport. I got public transport with you once.
I'm sorry, but an Uber Lux is not public transport. Right. Okay. Right. Okay. So, work on HS2 has been halted altogether because of an alleged sighting of the ghost of Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Is it true or is it false? Now, what you can think is, Lois, given that I've been doing some writing on the show, I was thinking, what is a rail-related question?
Yeah, because we were bullying you a little bit about that, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Actually,
no, the question isn't about that.
HS2.
It's about HS2. Come on, Lois. See the nuance.
All right, I do see the nuance, but I just wanted to say, did you know that they have, obviously, you famously smoked a pipe? In the children's textbooks about him, they actually airbrushed his pipe out of the pictures.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
I remember that. But the ghost...
I'm surprised they haven't got rid of him completely for not paying the minimum wage. To work.
Yeah, or for crimes against stovepipe... what are they called?
Stovepipe.
Hats.
Yeah, the really tall ones.
Do you know I bought Dan Hodges one of those hats once?
Well, that's an interesting story. I've told them. It's Saturday night, right? We're not debating houses and Dan Hodges' head.
Yeah,
right?
OK.
But surely it's more likely, rather than seeing Brunel's ghost, that we'd actually find the corpse of the financial controller who decided what the final cost was going to be back in 2008.
I actually think they're spooked.
The fat cat
They're
controller.
spooked about the prices, the cost of it.
Get it?
Get it about the cost?
Yeah.
No, Brunel appeared to workers going, not even I would have built a tunnel here.
Apparently it costs us 8 times more per mile of track than it does in France or Spain. But that's... A lot of that's to do with our... Well, I do, actually.
Oh,
yes.
my God.
Right.
I like when somebody else knows things.
If we are... I'm sorry. We are not doing a discussion on rail finance. All we're going to say is the following.
Stuff, though, really.
All we're going to say is the following. I believe that for 100 billion, we should have just knocked down Birmingham and moved it 20 minutes closer to London. That would have been a far better
I think the HS2 is a complete, massive waste of money. But I do like the idea that they saw a ghost. I really, really do. But I think Are you going to ask me the question yet or not?
Right, well, she's already dissed my presenting skills. Right? All right, I'll do it. Right, I can do it.
No, I don't.
Stop.
I want to know who's...
No, I don't want...
For the whacking amounts of money.
Yeah.
They should be
I think the people in charge want to know who's accountable as well, and they've discovered it's no one.
Yeah.
Okay, has work on HS2 been halted due to the ghost of Brunel coming to haunt the financial controller? See how I altered it then?
Yeah.
Is it true or is it false?
I'd love it to be true, but I think that it must be false.
It's absolutely false! So now it's time for the scores from the Woke Wabbit! So, what have you been up to this week?
I'm freaking out. All 62 of my friends at Just Stop Oil were just arrested. We live in a climate change denial police state.
Where's your poppy, Woke Rabbit?
Oh, I can't wear them because they're made out of plastic and it's bad for the turtles, isn't it?
No, they're not made out of plastic now.
Hang on, are you telling me that somebody from Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion is ignorant of the facts? I can't believe that.
No way!
Anyway, Woke Wabbit, what are the scores?
5 points for everyone.
5 points for everyone!
Sounds right,
yeah. OK, a question to Pete. A question to Pete. It's all to do with editing. we can't have the scores chronologically. Just in there. That's why they did it on Shooting Stars. OK, so to Pete, a plaque erected by the BBC to commemorate the first Black Briton has been removed after DNA tests proved she was not black.
Well, for pride, obviously, they've got some of these plaques. They put like the rainbow banner around the edge of them, and I was like, really, that's what we're doing now? And I won't be long before we have a Black Lives Matter one, and we'll have something this and something that. And I just think it ruins the point of these plaques. It is actually to commemorate somebody's achievement, no matter who they are or where they come from or whatever. It's to celebrate somebody. I just think it's just, I think it really belittles the... Can
I admit something terrible? Right.
Oh, not again.
I really wanted to immortalise myself. It's somewhere, and obviously it didn't happen.
Oh, no,
so actually, I went down to Timpson's and bought my own plaque and installed it on a park bench that was in loving memory of Andre Walker. I'm not joking. It's actually still there.
Oh my Lord!
You know that you can get help for this.
I hate everyone in this park.
Yeah.
It's absolutely true. A museum in County Durham has cancelled Santa and banned Christmas because it could be offensive, Lizzie. Is it true or is it false?
Oh, please tell me not. This woke nonsense. I hope not. I mean...
It's like when Birmingham...
Hold on, is that Barnard Castle?
It's Barnard Castle.
All those comings and goings.
Oh,
Hey!
Oh, no, I really hope.
We've had to wait, what, 25 minutes for that?
Listen, I think this is true because people now, we're going to be offended if we say the word Christmas. Merry Christmas. We're not allowed to say that.
I'm particularly offended when you use white Christmas because that's clearly discriminatory.
Yeah, that's colonial.
I went out doing some Vox Pops once asking people whether snowmen should be banned on the grounds they're all white, and somebody said, no, some are yellow. Oh my God.
That's quite clever, actually.
Very nice. Of course, the last person to ban Christmas was Oliver Cromwell. And what a upbeat party dude he was. And apparently he used to light up the House of Commons just by walking out of it.
No, it was the sexy Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Very
Cancel
similar.
Christmas.
Isn't it true that he was the first man to say, paint me warts and all? Because his face was full of warts.
He was a good-looking dude.
Oh.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, he was a good-looking bloke.
So the interesting thing about this was always the kind of press release statement that they put out after. You know, as somebody who's written many of these things, whoever wrote this one needs to be fired because it's terrible. And they basically said, oh, it was to make it more welcoming, and they didn't want to put people off. And I was saying, well, if that's the case, why? I wonder if when it gets to Eid or any of these other religious festivals, will they change the name of that one? And I bet you any money they won't. And that's why, whatever they say it's about making it welcome, it's complete nonsense.
The great danger, Pete, is what happened in Birmingham a few years ago when they cancelled Christmas in favour of Winterval. Yeah. And of course, what they said was, this in order to not offend Muslims. Nobody had consulted the Muslim community. But what actually then happened was people were outraged by this cultural vandalism. And suddenly the liberal white apologists responsible were blaming the Asian community who'd done nothing.
This is like woke nonsense and it's got to stop. And what I'm scared of with Keir Starmer, if he does get to be Prime Minister, this is going to get worse. This really is going to get worse, and then it is, and it's just crazy, and it's going to put people off. Christmas is a time to celebrate.
I go back to a quote from a guy from Carl Jung, the psychologist. He said, "People don't have ideas; ideas have people." And I think woke is a prime example of that. There is somebody in this museum or the executive director or whoever that's just that believes so strongly in not offending people that's all their focus is.
Has a museum in County Durham cancelled Santa and indeed banned the word Christmas on the grounds it's offensive? Is it true or is it false?
Sadly, I think it's true.
It's absolutely true!
That was The Woke That Was. Continues after the break.
Look, I'm getting ready for my new primetime show on TalkTV and radio, 7 o'clock Saturday night, James Whale Unleash. I don't need you coming in here, following me around with a car. I'm so sorry about this.
Saturdays at 7 on TalkTV.
People of Britain, I have news. From Monday, the home of common sense is on the move. The Independent Republic of Mike Graham is coming to prime time, and it's about time too. We'll still be covering the stories that matter and putting the world to rights. But now we're in a brand new time slot, so don't miss the Independent Republic of Mike Graham weekday nights at 9 p.m. right after Piers Morgan Uncensored. Yes, the revolution will be televised.
Welcome back to That Was The Woke That Was.
Now, there have been allegations that this quiz is not as competitive and genuine as... No, that's not true. OK, but any of those myths, any of those fears, any of those concerns will be allayed by the fact that Graham has randomly received this question. Rishi Sunak. Hey! Come on, he managed to get that into number 10. He must be good. OK, Rishi Sunak. It's all in the advice, baby. It's all in the advice. Rishi Sunak has given his 18-year-old nephew a seat in the House of Lords. Ooh. Is it true or is it false?
Now, that has an echo, just potentially, of referring to a predecessor in the post. Just possibly. I mean, who would have thought that Boris Johnson would go completely crazy and do something daft at the end of his reign? That shocked me completely.
Yeah. You know, if I was Prime Minister, I would stand by a great British principle. Former heads of state in Britain, and there's only been one who's actually voluntarily left the throne, but they get a dukedom, don't they? Well, there is a British national who's also a former head of state, Donald Trump. I believe that Donald Trump should be made the Duke of Washington, right? and then subsidiary title, Viscount New York.
Oh, brilliant. I love that.
His Grace, the Duke of Washington. Believe me, I'm the greatest Duke that's ever lived. So do you support my proposal, Graham?
I believe that Boris Johnson and Donald Trump both have the same genuine, total respect for the truth.
He's like Donald Trump, isn't he? He's like on a budget, Donald Trump.
He's like the rubbish one, isn't he? Like the rubbish.
Same hairdresser.
Yeah.
It's the same as you're the rubbish Mick Lynch.
Very kind. The unthinking woman, Mick Lynch.
But of course that makes me the rubbish Mike Graham, which is a depressing thought.
Hang on a minute. Trump actually has values and believes in things and sticks with it, and it's not just all about making money and stuff and net zero. So he's nothing like
Johnson's
Boris Johnson.
got principles and values, and if you don't like them, he's got others.
Great showmen, aren't they? They're both great showmen.
Graham, let me ask you something. Boris Johnson has been widely discredited, but there's a lot of us that genuinely were huge fans of his, and I've still got a residual liking for him.
You've still got a poster of him on his wall.
That's not a poster. That's not a poster. Wipe clean. But look, people are still enamoured with him and still fans of his. And I have to say, I thought he had some oomph, some get up and go. Whereas, let's be honest, Rishi Sunak's get up and go's got up and left. Right? Let's be totally honest.
Well, Boris Johnson, of course, had what anybody would say was a superpower, which I had nothing to do with. I have never had him as a client. Public speaking and appearing on television were indeed his great strengths. But it was almost about a third or halfway through his prime ministership that somehow Superman was given a diet of kryptonite and he lost that skill.
His friends backstabbed him, his friends and colleagues. And Rishi who he thought was an ally, you know, parachuted his way in.
Yeah.
Well,
I profoundly disagree with you on that one,
I'm with
because in
Graham on that
fact
one.
there were opportunities for Rishi to go on manoeuvres, but he in fact stuck with his job as Chancellor in a way that was the most responsible
But
thing
he
to
already
do for the
made his
country.
video before anything.
Hang on a second. Now, I do want to talk to Graham a little bit about the work that you actually do, because obviously we've touched on the issue of the presentation skills of Boris Johnson. He's not one of your clients, so you say. No, he isn't. He isn't. But on a serious note, you know, are there any politicians that you think are unfixable? I mean, Diane Abbott springs to mind.
Well, everybody is fixable politically if they're prepared to put the effort and the time in. But one of the things that you find that once people go into the House of Commons, they become like a Dunning-Kruger theme park. They believe that they become more and more invincible when they're speaking on television, or whether they're speaking in the House of Commons or speaking anywhere else. So they're not ready to put the time and effort in. That's the main
Graham,
factor.
I have to say one thing. I had a friend who got into the House of Commons. I won't say who it is, but he turned into a character from Dickens. He was worse. He was worse than Pete.
With the outfit and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing to do with what I'm wearing, just worse than me.
But actually, one thing that people forget, and there is likely to be a big wipeout of members of Parliament at the next election, the unemployment rate amongst former MPs is incredibly high. A lot of these people haven't had a proper job in years. They haven't actually developed professionally in a way that's useful to a business in years. And actually, their salary expectations and their personal grandeur is such that they're basically unemployable.
Leaving that arena is a very difficult intellectual and emotional thing to do. Johnson is a perfect example of this, because I think nearly every high-profile politician eventually turns into their own spitting image puppet.
Can I just ask a quick question, Greg? We talk about Boris and his big showmanship and all the rest of it, and Rishi is the complete opposite of that. Where do you think the public is? Do you think the public want another showman, or do you think they like the kind of the nerdy aspects of Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak, because they are chalk and cheese? They really are in terms of personality.
Rishi's like a forensic accountant.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering,
whatever one's political views are, Starmer and Sunak are much more organised and much more focused on straight line objectives than their predecessors. I don't think anybody could argue against that. But having said that, at the same time, we do live in the century of ADHD. And so when a politician says something, they've got to get to the point quicker and quicker and quicker, because of the multiplicity of media that there is.
They're both very boring and dull, and I want Boris back.
I've got to be honest with you. I think that when I worked in the House of Commons, I felt that there are a large number of people that people forget who are what I would call duty voters, who are people who want to see credible people get elected to high office. I mean, if you look at the number of people who will change which political party they vote for based on the Prime Minister being the local member of Parliament, those duty votes who believe the Prime Minister shouldn't lose, I think that they are a significant factor. And I think in the end, Boris Johnson lost them. That was the problem.
But surely as a leader, you've got to have the X factor. You've got to have something about you.
Has Rishi Sunak put his 18-year-old nephew into the House of Lords? Is it true or is it false?
I'm delighted to say that it's definitely false.
Whoa.
It's absolutely false! Now, by the way, just to explain, just so that those people watching and listening understand this, Graham's proudest political achievement was being president of the Cambridge Union.
Yes.
Which is, let's just be clear, like the rubbish version of being president of the Oxford Union. But anyway, now we're all in on that joke. We can move on. So to Lois.
Yes.
Cambridge University. Not to Graham, to Lois. Cambridge University has asked lecturers to blacklist books that might be offensive or harmful to students. Now, I invite you, Lois, to be as offensive as possible to Cambridge University. The floor is yours.
Why would I want to be offensive to Cambridge
Because we want to hurt Graham.
Oh, only to hurt Graham,
we want to make clear that there is only one university in Britain.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, well...
And that is the University of Hull.
No, I mean, this story, very, very sadly, I think is true. But, I mean, you know, the whole 1984 thing, I mean, for example, is 1984 going to be banned as one of the books?
Yeah.
And what is deemed offensive? I mean, is it because the political views are different to your political views, or because it says men and women, or because...
Can I actually throw this at Graham? Because forgetting the dissing of Cambridge University bit, clearly the Cambridge Union is an important home, second most important home of debating in British parliamentary debating in Britain.
Come on, stand up.
You were incredibly lucky, and I was incredibly lucky, and a lot of people have been lucky in this respect, but most people haven't, to be in a forum where you can openly debate and discuss ideas. Modern universities seem to be going the opposite way of places around the world. Around the world, students are rising up to allow free speech and debate, something that we had, but I feel now students don't have.
They're going in the opposite direction of free speech, obviously. And what's frightening is, of course, at the Union, whether it's Oxford, Cambridge, Durham, anywhere else in a sort of debating society, you expect to be given a hard time by the other side, maybe even some shouting, some heckling, some interruptions. Indeed, it is. That is true democracy. But to be shut down, not to be allowed to speak at all, to have invitations withdrawn, that is the opposite of democracy. That's what happens in Russia and China and North Korea.
Absolutely.
And
I mean,
wrong direction.
That's what we're becoming.
Book burning.
I'm not being funny, but don't China, North Korea and Russia fund most of the universities?
No, I mean,
moving swiftly on.
Moving swiftly on,
I mean, that is the cruel irony, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
These Chinese students come over to get freedom in Britain, and of course they don't get it even in Britain. But Pete, sorry.
I was just going to say, you mentioned the phrase book burning, and it's genuinely terrifying about this stuff, because it's all done under the umbrella of decolonisation.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a nonsense phrase. Yeah. But what it does really concern me, because I think universities have to kind of remain as neutral as they physically can be. And I think this is picking a side. This is without a doubt picking a side. And I get the people have their own social justice movements, but the Cambridge University Library is one of the 6 main libraries where it can request any kind of publication that's been released in the UK. It's an incredibly important institution.
Like the British Library.
Yeah, and it's been incredibly important. And to see it being taken over and kind of captured in this way is really concerning.
But Pete, here's the thing that I literally cannot understand. I remember when I was in 6th form, I attempted to read, actually, not only one of the most offensive books...
I thought you could read.
Badly worded.
Sorry.
But when I was in 6th form, I attempted to read a very badly worded book, but actually also quite an offensive book, Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler. Right? And actually, I thought it was worthwhile to look at that book to realise what offensive junk it was.
But you know what? They're changing words. They're changing history. That's what's so worrying. This woke nonsense has gone mad, and I'm really worried for my boys' kids. You know,
no, I
the
think
future.
you're right. And in fact, Winston Smith's job in... Sorry to keep going on about it, but in 1984, that was his job.
Yeah.
To go through books and newspapers and to take out words and change the facts and then have them reprint. That was his actual job.
We're seeing it also just in terms of like in publishing houses now, you know, because they've tried to reword Roald Dahl, they want to reword...
Oh,
James
yeah, but we weren't having that, were we?
No.
It is unbelievable.
And, you know, and this is the thing, it's all done. And we go back to your point earlier, Andre, about not offending people. But I think you're actually just offending people by doing this.
Yes.
You're doing it on behalf of people that I don't think really care
and it's
that
just
much.
an excuse.
And it is.
And if the language that was put in those original books was wrong or offensive in some way, future generations should be able to see that language so they can learn not to use it.
And you learn from your mistakes, and you learn by looking back
Going
at
back to your point about the history bit, you learn by looking at it. And I think what these people are doing is trying to hide it and make it disappear. And I think that...
Was it he who doesn't learn from history is doomed to repeat it?
The other thing, and I've repeated this comment before multiple times, but it is worth pointing out that the reason why humanity has been so successful is our ability to pass down knowledge from father to son and from mother to daughter. Right? The reason why a community of birds don't ever advance is because each individual creature has to relearn in every generation.
But Essex girls.
What that means in reality is this. It is inevitable for human progress that people in the past will be backward.
Exactly.
It doesn't make them evil. It doesn't make them stupid. It's an inevitable process of moving forward that there's something behind you. But anyway...
One day you will be replaced, Andre, by artificial intelligence.
What do you mean? He already has.
That will never happen. 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 Don't worry about it.
Oh, no.
I think we got caught there. Yeah. Yeah, it's TalkTV's AI boss. Okay, see you later. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Siri.
is it true that Cambridge University Library is now trying to blacklist books? Is it true or is it false?
It's very sadly true.
It's absolutely true. So, Woke Rabbit, are you concerned about the level of meat consumption in Britain?
Oh yeah, we all need to start eating the insects. I was thinking about how I felt about the whole Nigel Farage thing. Some time in the jungle will do him a world of good, more environmentally friendly, and I think I'm a Celebrity will help him do that.
What makes me laugh is coming from the thing that's made of plastic. But okay. So what are the scores, Woke Rabbit?
1,000 points for Lois, and everyone else is on 0.
Okay.
That sounded more realistic.
Hang on. It's not over till the Fat Andre sings. Right. Now, this question is joyous. Pete, this is a happy moment for me. Right, come on, everyone. Come on, everyone.
Go on.
Hallelujah. God bless Talk Television. The Cabinet Office has apologised to Julia Hartley-Brewer for claiming she was a vaccine denier.
Yeah.
Pete, is it true or is it false?
I loved reading this. It was like the biggest tail between your legs moment from the Cabinet Office, and all these people that try to shut down the press over lockdown and try to. I thought the way that some of the bits of the British establishment behaved were absolutely horrific.
Pete, she had danced down to the GPs to get her vaccination. She had publicly advocated for people to get it. She'd been an absolute defender of a sensible, moderate policy. The only thing she did was said that it was a waste of time vaccinating children in line with actual medical facts that had been published at the time.
And it's true, and with the masks, and look what it's done. We've got a mental effect.
I go back to something
for what happened in lockdown.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I go back to something you always say, Andre, is you hated the fact that none of us are scientists on this couch, but we can't talk about science. You can't debate science. And I thought that was the bit that they sent up those big red flags again, all throughout COVID and all throughout lockdown. Because the moment you say you can't talk about that, my instinct is why? But also, the other thing that's got to Julia Hartley-Brewer is a moderate. There is no doubt about that, and she was supportive of the vaccine. I think the idea that you would then do an investigation on a British national for no good reason, but then hand it to the Americans, and it's not because it's the Americans, it's any foreign government. I thought it was despicable. I actually think that she was remarkably charitable to accept the apology. I have to admit, I was very surprised with how charitable she was about it and how very kind of like that's fine. Let's draw a line under it. Because I tell you right now, if it was me, I'd have thrown a big parade saying, "I told you, I told you."
I would have thrown a huge party.
Can you imagine? Sorry,
an apology party.
Sorry, Pete Barnes. I just want to ask you, what would the Julia Hartley-Brewer vaccine parade be like? What would happen?
It'd be like a ticket tape parade. You know, like one of those big open cars. You know, like they used to do when astronauts used to come back.
Well, don't get
and all that.
No, I can imagine Pete on the mic like this, going. Hello, London! You are not going to believe who I've seen backstage.
Well, I'm sure if it had happened to Nigel Farage, he would have just accepted the apology, wouldn't he?
I'll tell you what, if it had happened to Farage, he'd have milked it. He'd have milked it like it was a Jersey Royal.
I just want to pick on the serious aspect of this, because let's be honest, the government decided to put journalists on lists. Let's be real let's be really serious about what actually happened here. That a journalist was put on a list because they were daring to ask questions that the government didn't like. That is insidious, and that has to be investigated as to why that was even a policy idea in the first place.
We are going to move on, but congratulations to Hartley-Brewer. Is it true or is it false that she was targeted by the Cabinet Office and has now received an apology?
It's true.
It's absolutely true! Right. Now, do you know what we did earlier to Graham? We're now going to do it to Pete.
Oh.
So just to explain, there are 2 Pete Barnes in the... Well, there's probably more than 2. Right? But Pete Barnes, his dad is called Pete Barnes, and he's the longest-serving employee at Heinz. Was. OK, with that in mind, Lizzie, Heinz has been forced to publish a step-by-step guide for making baked beans on toast, as most Brits were doing it wrong. Is it true?
How can you do that wrong?
Oh, you can.
You can't do that wrong. It's simple.
The producer who makes this show, Chuck Thomas, has discovered that Pete grew up on a diet, right, get this, of factory reject beans. Right? Apparently, any time on the production line, the beans had gone badly wrong, they got sent to Pete Barnes' his house. And he-
What was it like if you had a dent? In your
Yeah. So they had like in the shop they had a staff sales shop. So basically you got things like cheaper and everything. So basically when I went to university, my dad used to send me with these slabs of like little tins of beans that had dents in them, or basically it's something they wouldn't.
A slab of beans.
Like slab. You're like which is what
What's
they
the
call
right collective there?
Do you know what makes me laugh about that? What makes me laugh about that? How much must you love your child? Because when they go to university, the thing you send them with is dented cans of beans. And I'll tell you what, son. You can have as many dented cans of beans as you need. Forget your book. Don't need books.
Mastermind.
I missed out on a trick though because a friend of mine, my father and his father worked together. And he did the same thing. But my friend ended up selling these tins of beans around the kind of college, around the university campus.
He was a bean dealer.
And bean dealer. He was a bean dealer.
Class A.
Class A. Well,
Class A. They were dented.
If it goes wrong, you know what you can do.
So just to be clear, Pete, this is what used to go on. I've got some beans. The illicit bean trade at university. Right, what? I've slagged off Wigan before. What is going on in that place?
Hey, I live here now. I live in a very nice bit of London now.
He has proper beans from Waitrose
I'm
now.
not going round to yours for tea. I'm just telling you now.
Hey, I know how to make beans on toast.
I'll tell you what. I bet Pete's Hall of Residence was volatile. Anyway. Okay, so has Heinz published a step-by-step guide to making beans on toast?
You know what?
Is it true or false?
I think this is ridiculous, but yes, it's true.
It's absolutely true! The winner is Graham Davis. He will receive a £50 gift voucher for Tanfastic in Wigan, which can be redeemed on either a spray tan or just on the normal sunbeds. I think you'll appreciate that, and no doubt somebody will be able to cream your head when you get in to ensure that you are not sunburnt when you get onto the bed. So that was the woke that was. Thank you so much to my panellists, Lois Perry, Graham Davis, Lizzie Cundy, and the beautiful Pete Barnes. I'm off now to have a pint. Goodbye.
Coming Monday, Julia Hartley-Brewer is back. The no-nonsense queen of Talk TV is in a new time slot, but still telling it like it is.
The problem lies in the bureaucracy.
It's almost like those highly paid consultants don't really know what they're doing, isn't it?
Don't miss her brand new mid-morning show. Every weekday from 10 a.m.
That's my job. If you're thinking about it, we're talking about it.
Talk TV, for the stories that matter.